Good day, everyone. Today we're going to discuss about the text structure, the language use, and the thesis statements. Actually, we have already discussed this in our previous lesson, but it's a good point that we could also review this topic, specifically this structures of text and even the thesis statements. And also, we could have the additional information about these topics. Now, class, we have five basic structures in academic texts. And what we're going to do is just to review. So I will give you the definitions and you will guess, or in your own, you have to identify what text structure is being defined by this characteristics or definition. So this is the first one. So it is a basic strategy used by writers for presenting action, or it also tells a story or it explains a sequence of events. So that is, okay, narration. So the goal of narration is to screen and present details that explain the significance of an event. So as what I have told you last time, so for example, you are creating or writing a narrative report. For example, there is an incident in your online class wherein someone was being bullied, okay? And the guidance officer asked you to create a narrative report. So when you are creating a narrative report, of course, the structure of that academic text or writing is narration, okay? So there are two types of narration. The first one is objective narration, and the second one is subjective narration. When we say objective narration, it presents facts to create an accurate timeline of events. So you don't have to give your opinion or your insight perspective about that specific incident or event, but you're just trying to state the facts. While when you are writing in a subjective narration, you are including your impressions, your feelings, your insights, or your point of view. So it's like having the two types of tone of writing. So we have the objective tone and subjective tone. So that is also the same with narration. Okay. Next, what structure is this? It used to explain uh, unfamiliar terms. So clearly stated definitions play a critical role in the text. It is used for two major purposes. It can be to explain or also to convince. So this one is the definition or defining type of text structure. So for example, class, there is an unfamiliar term or there is a new word that you have to explain to everyone because everyone is not well informed about that word. So you have to create an academic writing that is defining that word. And class, we have five types of definition. The first one is the standard. When we say standard, those are the definitions which the meanings rarely change and is universally accepted. So definitely those words are more likely to be permanent and universally accepted. So for example, the definition of the right angle. So the right angle is composed of nine angle that is composed of 90 degrees. So that is a widely accepted or universally accepted truth. And if you're going to search that in dictionary, that is exactly what you will get. So that is an example of standard definition. Next one. We also have the regulatory. So the meanings assigned by organizations and changes depending on how it is used. For example, uh, the PAG-ASA's definition of critical level is different from the school's definition of critical level of thinking. Okay, because when we say critical level in PAG-ASA's term, it means that there is a heavy rainfall or a thunderstorm. But if we are using critical level in school, so for example, critical level of thinking, it has a different meaning. And for example, if we have the term critical level in the hospital or in the emergency, there is also a different meaning of that. It can be that the person is between dying and living, so it can be like that. So it depends on the organization, and that is what you call regulatory. Next, we also have qualifying. So the meanings of the word are subject for interpretation. When we say subject for interpretation, it is open. to be interpreted by anyone. Okay, so for example, the word delinquent. So the word delinquent has a broad meaning. Okay, so as I have searched about it, it can be an adjective, which means, or an adjective that tells that it is a, what they call this, misbehavior or misbehaving, or an act that is susceptible in doing crime or being lawlessness. So if it is a noun, it is described as a young man that is susceptible to do crimes or minor law violations. So it depends. So it depends on how someone or how it is being interpreted by anyone. So that is qualifying definition. And when we say personal, the meanings depend on the interpretation or assigned meaning of the writer himself. Okay? So when we say personal definition, it is also subjective, but it only depends on the writer himself. So for example, I as for example, I am the writer and I defined friendship in a subjective way. So I might have the definition of friendship that is different from your definition of that friendship. Okay, so that is personal. So it is based on the writer's definition of that word. So last one, we have the invented. So the meanings given to words which are newly coined are already being used in the society. So for example, the word flash mob is uh, is just a new word, okay, that is recently added in our society, and it is already accepted by widely accepted. When we say flash mob, that is a sudden public, what do you call this, performance. It can be dance. Okay, so that's flash mob. And there are a lot of words or newly invented words in our society. But class, don't be confused about the colloquial words, okay? Because colloquial words or those informal words are not um, acceptable to be used here in academic writing. But this flash mob, this is accepted because there is no other words to describe that flash mob. Okay, and it's not an informal. So another example is the new word that we are using, the memes. Okay, so um, it is it is what we can see or what we can observe as we browse the internet. Okay, and that word meme can also be defined if you are going to write an academic writing about that. Okay, but we cannot include the words such as the gay lingos, such as the words that are slang or colloquial. We cannot add those words because it has no meaning in academic writing. So we cannot use the word charot, or we cannot define chos, we cannot define whatever words that are not significant in academic writing. Okay, so again, those are the 5 types of definitions. Now let's proceed with the next text structure or type of text structure. So it is a strategy that involves combining objects or items into categories based on distinct characteristics. So that is classification. So paragraphs can be organized using an official or personal classification. So for example, if you are a STEM student and you are going to write about the kingdom Animalia. So for example, you're going to classify the vertebrates and the invertebrates. So um, under that vertebrates, we have the mammals, we have the birds, we have fish, we have reptiles, amphibians, and then under that invertebrates, we also have whatever types of animals they may have. Okay, so when we say classifying, you are just combining uh, things or yes, things based on their distinct categories. Okay, so that's classifying. This is the next structure. So this is used to see how two objects or items are alike or different and in what way they are alike or different. So this one is the comparison and contrast. So I have already explained this to you last time. Now, class, there are two types of comparison and contrast. First one is the chunking, and second one is sequencing. When we say chunking, the characteristics of the items being compared are presently or are presented separately. For example, the characteristics of a Honda car are presented first, then followed by the characteristics of a Toyota car. So, for example, we have compared and contrasted the reading versus critical reading last time, right? So, if we're going to use this type of comparison and contrast, the chunking, okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to define or describe the reading first in all of the aspect from its purpose to the direction, question, action, okay, and so on. Okay, and after describing reading, you are now going to describe what is critical reading. Okay, so you will also start from uh, the purpose, response, action, question, direction, and so on. So that's how you do chunking. But when you are sequencing, okay, the attributes of the objects are presented point by point. For example, the features of Honda and a Toyota will be analyzed feature by feature. So maybe you could, this is the Honda and this is Toyota, and you're going to compare them point by point. For example, how about the wheels of the Honda? And what about the wheels of Toyota? What about the engine of Honda and what about the engine of Toyota? So as what we have done in um, reading versus critical reading, if we're going to do the sequencing, we are going to describe or compare and contrast them point by point. For example, what is the purpose of reading? So, what is the purpose of critical reading? What is the direction of reading? And what is the direction of critical reading? Okay, so that is sequencing point by point. You are comparing them and contrasting them. Okay, next. So, this is another type or yes, type of academic text structure. So a writing strategy states or explains reasons why things happen or explains the result of certain phenomena. So it is important to identify the most common factor among several causes and the most likely outcomes of those causes. So this is the structure which we call cause and effect. Okay. Now, class, it is important to determine the text structure of an academic text in order to identify the main ideas or points. In recognizing the structure, you as a reader can easily monitor your comprehension. So, of course, as a reader, you have to know what kind of text you are reading. What kind of text structure am I reading so that you could have the right expectation, and that expectation might be satisfied by the end of that text. So, for example, I am reading the cause and effect structure. So if I know that this is the structure that I am reading, then therefore I could expect that there will be effects. I could see the effects of this specific topic. And if I have met that expectation, then I will be satisfied with what I am reading. And I could be able to understand that topic very well. Okay, now let's proceed with the language use. I have already told you what do you mean by language use in our previous topic. So what do we mean when we say language use in academic writing? Does it mean that you are referring to whether you're going to use Filipino, English, Spanish? Is it? Okay, definitely it's not. We are not referring to whether the text is written in Filipino or English, but we are referring to the words used in delivering the message. The choice of words, is it appropriate to the topic, is it appropriate to the audience or the reader? So the choice of the language should be also suited to your reader. So just like the example that I have given you last time, for example, you're going to write an academic text about the herbal plants, you don't have to write the scientific terms for those plants if you're just writing for an ordinary students or for the even for the STEM students because they are not yet professional with that field. Okay, and so they need to just have the ordinary terms for them to understand what you are writing is all about. Okay, so again, the appropriateness of the language should be based on your topic. It can be also the setting, and most of all, it must be suited to your reader. Who are your readers? Okay, so I have covered there the two uh, tones of writing or the definition of those writing because I have already discussed this to you. So this is just a self-evaluation if you are able to distinguish the difference between the two. So this also covers the writer's tone of writing. So when we say subjective, what is subjective? Okay, so that is using the writer's personal biases. So if you are writing in a subjective tone, you're now going to include your own perspective, your own insight, your own opinion about that issue or topic. So this is what you're going to use if you are persuading your audience or if you are writing in a persuasive purpose. And the other one is the objective, so there are opposite. So if subjective has something to do with your personal biases, when we say objective, it has something to do with the facts. So it uses factual information and arguments. So this is what you're going to use when you're just writing in a informative uh, purpose. Okay? So the writer has to decide the language and tone of writing depending on the purpose of writing. Now let's practice. Identify which of the following are written in appropriate language. So this is the first example. My fellow graduates, as we move on to the next chapter of our lives, let us not forget to take heart and honor the lessons we've learned during our time in this institution. So this is an example of graduation speech. Okay, do you think it is appropriate or the language he or she used is appropriate? Okay, so this one is appropriate because this one is a formal language. But um, take note, class, that when you are writing an academic text, part of having a formal word, using formal words, is also trying to avoid not to use contractions. Or when we say contractions, those are the shortening of words. So, for example, instead that you are using with, you should write it in a complete word. So we have. So you should say that honor the lessons we have learned. Okay, so when you are again when you are writing academically, you should avoid or you should not be using this contraction. So if you're writing I am, it should be in a complete I am or you are, not I'm, not your, not with, not we're. Okay, not don't, but do not can't, but cannot. So you should avoid those contractions. Next one. The principal said, "Hey, what's up? I'm here to tell your boys happenings here's in my school." And the parent said, "For sure, for sure. Do you think it's appropriate?" Of course, it's not, because as what you can see in their setting, they are on a formal setting wherein the principal is going to have a conference with the parent, and it is not um, formal to use those kind of words, okay? Unless they are best friends, okay? Like, hi Mars, it's like that. But again, it's not appropriate to use this kind of words. Last one. So this is, for example, when you are chatting with your friend, "Hey, can we meet up?" ILY or I love you. IMY are short for I miss you. And that friend said, "Yeah, sure. Talk to you later," or TTYL. So do you think it's appropriate? Okay, if you are going to use that kind of text in academic writing, of course, it is not appropriate. But in their setting, because they are just chatting, it's just a conversation between two friends, they can use that kind of words. So again, the appropriateness of the language still depends on it still depends on the setting, it still depends on the topic, and it still depends on the setting. So their setting is just the chat, and they are just talking to each other as friends. So it is appropriate for them. But if you're going to use those kind of words in academic writing, it is not acceptable. It is not appropriate. Okay? Now let's proceed with thesis statement. So what is a thesis statement? A thesis statement has the following characteristics. First, it covers the topics you want to talk about, no more and no less. Two, it, it lets your reader know what to expect. Three, it usually appears in your paper's introductory part, as what I have told you last time. It can be on the end part of your introduction. And lastly, it helps you better organize and develop the contents of your paper. So just for an instance, you forgot or you lost what topic you are writing about, you may just go back to your thesis statement so that you will be guided. "Ah, okay, this is my point. This is what I want to tell or to prove my readers, okay, or in my paper." Okay, so thesis statement is very important. Next, in creating thesis statement, there are again the three things that you have to consider or to look for. First one is the claim. So what are you trying to tell the audience? What is your stand about that specific thing? What are you trying to prove? The second one is the evidence. So how do you know this? What are your evidences? Do you have sources? Is that sources reliable? And then the last one is significance. So why does this matter? Why do we have to know about this? Okay, now class, I have here an example. Actually, I have many examples of thesis statements. Okay, so this one is from Caroline. So I just searched this in Google. Okay, so the, the topic that she has is the online versus traditional education. And this is her thesis statement. So traditional education is of higher value than online education. So that is her claim. So the explanation and the claim and the explanation was um, what do you call this was joined by that conjunction because. Okay, so because teaching styles are designed to allow shared learning responsibility through students' collaboration with teachers in face-to-face interaction. In face-to-face interaction. Okay, so that is how she explained her claim. That is her evidence towards her claim. Okay, and that's how you do thesis statement. Next, a thesis statement is often accompanied by supporting details. Supporting details and statements or sentences that support or uphold the idea of the thesis statement. So that is the definition of supporting details. So, for example, you are not able to connect your claim and your evidence in just one sentence. So definitely you could not join them by that conjunction because, but you could uh, make a separate sentence that would support your main idea, and that is what you call supporting details. Now, supporting details includes facts. You may search for that in textbook or in reliable sources from the internet. You may also have the statistics or figures. So, for example, there is a survey about that online class. So, for example, you have found that uh, 70% of the students find it hard to connect to online classes. It can be like that. Statistics. Next, it can be direct quotes from the persons who are expert in that field. It can be also a paraphrase or summarized quotes instead of just using the direct quotes. But of course, if you are using the summarized or paraphrase quotes, it is still important to give the proper citation or proper acknowledgement of who are the persons who quoted or stated that things or statements. And we also have here images, drawings, and cartoons. Maybe this one is applicable when you are um, writing with documentation. So, for example, you are writing narrative report. So, of course, in order for your narrative report to be um, something that is more factual and believable, so for example, you are creating a narrative report about um, how you do your group report or maybe your presentation. So when you are creating narrative report, you have to take a picture of your classmates who are collaborating, who are doing that together. Okay, and that's a documentation. And that is also a supporting detail of your main idea. It can be like that. Okay, but it is not applicable all the time because when you are writing, or specifically or especially in academic writing, you have to really express that clearly through words, okay, not just through images. Okay, and we also have this anecdotal evidences. So, for example, there is a student who shared his or her personal journal about her experience, daily experience in online class. It can be like that. So those are the examples, or those are the uh, things that you can include for your supporting details. Now, class, let's proceed with more examples of thesis statement with supporting details. Okay, so this one, as what we can see, the first sentence there is the main idea, and then the rest are the supporting details. So first, Antarctica is a dangerous and lonely place. So that is his or her claim. So Antarctica is a dangerous and lonely place. So the reason are this. First, it is the coldest and driest continent on the planet. It is far away from hospitals and food supplies. It has I sorry unpredictable weather can cause sudden blizzards which can trap people beneath several feet of snow in a matter of hours. So that is his thesis statement. And class, um just imagine, or maybe be informed that this statement is just a part of his or her introduction or introductory paragraph. So definitely there might be sentence, or yes, more sentence before that thesis statement, and for sure there are more sentences after that paragraph or after that thesis statement. Okay? Okay. And as what you can see, their thesis statements are very long. So definitely this type of thesis statements are more applicable for researches or long theses or dissertations. But in your case, since for example, we are just going to create a thesis statement for essays, for me, it is just acceptable to have one sentence or 1 to 2 sentences. So if you're going to write a thesis statement, 1 to 2 sentences is enough. Another example of thesis statement with supporting details is this. So it says, high fructose corn syrup is bad for your health. So that is his or her claim. It has been linked to the obesity epidemic, mostly because of its use in soft drinks. It is also digested by your body more quickly than natural sugars and puts a tremendous strain on your liver. Consuming high amounts of high fructose corn syrup can also cause inflammation of the intestines, diabetes, and heart disease. So that those are the supporting details of her main idea that high fructose corn syrup is bad for your health. So that's how you do thesis statements. So if, for example, this is just an example, class. So for example, this is your thesis statement. Definitely on the body part of your essay, or whatever you may writing, at the body part of that, you have to explain this more detailed, in a detailed way. You might give more evidences, you might give more supporting details, specific details, aside from the specific or supporting details that you have given. Or of course, they should still be related to each other. So this supporting details that you have must be related to um, the other examples that you're going to give on the body part of your essay. Okay? Now, class, if you have questions or clarifications about writing thesis statement or about this topic, you may just give me a personal message or you may chat in our group chat. You may also ask or give comments in our Google Classroom. Okay, so your activity will be posted on our Google Classroom. Okay, so thank you for today. Um, I hope that you have learned a lot from this lesson and see you next week. Bye.